This didn't go as planned. Oh, fuck. What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you guys have seen the last video, which was test and tune with Joe's car and a little bit of update with Taiga's CRV. Now, the test and tune, I've been getting the car ready the week prior, and the car did not make it to test and tune because I've been battling a lot of like coolant issues with the car. And let me tell you guys, the night that I went to Mexico, I was in line getting ready to put in some work, and I noticed that my temperature gauge was fluctuating hot, cold, and that was unusual because it never did it before. What I had noticed was this hose and this hose was super bloated. It was super tight in the hose that it could have popped at any time. And the issue that I was having was all of this was pressurizing that. This was getting super filled up, which was leaking, and not sure why that is happening. So I was in the parking lot trying to figure it out while hiding, and we popped the bottom hose off. We took out the thermostat and reinstalled that, and then my buddy Chewy was there with me, and I had like half a jug of coolant, so we filled it back up. I didn't even get to bleed it, jumped back in the freeway and smashed home pretty much, and the car kind of just sat since. So on Friday, the night prior to test and tune, I was like, all right, well, I still got to go to test and tune. I got to get the car situated. And what I did was I took the radiator out because I had thought the radiator was clogged or whatever reason, because the top part of it was super hot, right? But everything from the fins down, even the tank at the bottom, is super cold. And if you put your hand right here in the fan, even after you're driving it for about 30 miles, it's still super cold. So I took the radiator out and I pressurized it, tried to clean it, and I shot water from the bottom, shot water from the top, and it was flowing. So the next thing I did was the water pump. I redid the water pump, put a new one in there, although the other one was brand new as well, and that didn't change the situation with the bloated hoses. Now, because I was working into the night, lost a lot of time before test and tune, I ended up not taking my car because of the situation with the hoses, and you know, I didn't want to like pop the motor for being too hot or whatever the case is, or pop a radiator down the track, so I didn't take the car. So I did do a compression test, and when I put the motor together, the compression from 1 to 4 was 195 across the board. And since I figured out the situation with the hoses, the compression reading now reads 190, 190, 175, 175. So we lost compression here, and I think what I'm going to do today is a leak down test. When you have a low compression in the cylinder, a leak down test will kind of tell you where it's coming from to help you pinpoint what's going on in that cylinder. Now, my leak down tester is a Harbor Freight unit, and I stopped using it a long time ago because it's like, I don't know if the gauge is off calibration or whatever the case, but it doesn't read like it's supposed to read as far as like percentage of leakage and stuff like that. So on a leak down tester, this is the Harbor Freight unit. They have this little knob right here that helps you gauge the amount of air going into the tester right here. And then this is supposed to, I guess you're supposed to gauge it to where this goes to about 0 to 10. And if there's a leak in that cylinder, it should start moving out of that yellow zone. Right now it has half a thermostat in it, and it's not like thermostat stuck closed or whatever. That's why I thought it was, but it's not. And it still drives normal, but since that night where the gauge would you know, go super high on the temp, and since, you know, addressing it, it hasn't gone hot, but it's still something I have to address because there's not supposed to be pressure in the cooling system, or not like my issue. So I'm gonna go ahead and take out this spark plug, and then I'm gonna put this cylinder on TDC compression stroke, which means the piston is gonna be at the very top and all the valves should be closed to do the leak down test. So I'm gonna do all that now and hook up my stuff and throw some air in there. In my tank we have about 130, and I'm gonna hook this up real quick. Right now it is gauged at 50, right? And you see the needle is on the wrong side. The only way to get that needle to be in that yellow is to completely turn the air off. And obviously that defeats the whole purpose of a leak down test, right? So this Harbor Freight unit is trash, but I'm still able to gauge the amount of PSI that's going to be going into that cylinder. I'm probably going to keep it about, let's do 65. 65 is more than enough. And in this test, you got to remove like this guy, the oil cap. I'm going to remove the dipstick, throttle body, and the radiator cap, because the leak down test is going to hiss out of one of these locations, which will help pinpoint where all the air is leaking through. So before you hook this up, that gauge should already be reading in that yellow 0 to 10%, but this is booty, so that we're not going to pay attention to this. But typically once you hook it up, the gauge is going to read wherever, you know, it's going to read at, depending on how much percent is leaking in that cylinder. So if 15% is leaking, it'll read 15, 20, 60, 80, so on and so forth. So because my gauges don't work, I just got to like manually listen to this. Right now I don't hear it coming out of here, which eliminates like piston ring as well as this guy down here. I don't hear anything coming out of here, right? If you look at the coolant, if the head gasket is blown, the coolant should be like bubbling up. You see no movement there, right? Now the last part would be throttle body. The sound changes. I don't know if you hear that. Well, that makes sense. So if the air is bypassing into the throttle body, it's going through my charge pipe, my intercooler to my turbo, and you can hear it coming out of my compressor housing. Huh, that's interesting. That is cylinder 4 with 175 PSI. It's not ultra low, but it's lower than when we started at 195. So if it's coming out of the throttle body, something to do with the intake valves. And I've already done the valve lashing this 3 times now, one last week, one a couple days ago, and obviously when I did the initial head install. They are all in spec. Intake valves are between 6 and 7, and I did 6. Exhaust is 7 and 8, I did 7, and now it's leaking out of the throttle body. So if it's leaking out of the throttle body, it's something to do with the valves. Either it's not seating, valve lash is off again, which I don't know how, burnt valve, bent valve, I don't know. So number 4 is leaking out of the throttle body, which sucks. This slightly changes noise, like there's definitely a hiss coming out of it, for sure. And that's not good. Nothing there, nothing there, and nothing here. So if it's coming out of the block oil dipstick hole, it's going past the rings. That's definitely not good. Damn. Slap some new spark plugs in here. Gap them down to about 20, and previously was at 22. I noticed some break up top the other night, just that night. And I know a lot of people were saying the Honda Rules kit has like misfires up top, but I believe, you know, what I'm thinking is 25 pounds of boost up top is when it breaks up. So 25 pounds of boost is either expanding like my hoses, or it's lifting my head, which causes coolant in the cylinder, which causes low compression because now the head gasket is bad, causes a misfire. I don't know, just a theory, but I have new spark plugs in here, gap down to 20 to see if it breaks up anymore. What I'm going to do right now is I'm cleaning up, and I'm going to turn the car on, probably put some coolant in it, bleed it out a little bit more, and then I'm going to close it, drive it around the block, and I'm going to come back and show you guys how tight this hose becomes after a few minutes. So I did cylinder 2, which was leaking out of the throttle body, and I did cylinder 1, which is leaking out of the oil cap. All 4 cylinders is not looking good. So mind you guys, the thermostat is like half punched out. So I gotta sit here and like hold the throttle until it warms up a tad bit. And I'm gonna bleed out that coolant over there, and then we'll take it around the block. As I am sitting here waiting for the car to warm up, I'm noticing a lot of smoke coming from my catch can. So I just texted my buddy that built my bottom block, and he's telling me to stick a bore scope down the cylinder to see if there's any scorings on the cylinder walls. Why would I need to do that? But it makes sense, because when I did the leak down test, it was hissing through the block. And for it to go to the block, it's bypassing the rings, and if the rings are worn or bad, it could score the cylinder walls. You know how frustrating it is when you put a ton of money into something like this, and then 500 miles later, it's hurt. So I just closed the cap. It's a little squishy right now, how it's supposed to be. I'm gonna take it for a drive and see how it is after. It's weird. I'm starting to think my cluster's messed up. Build some two-step real quick to put some pressure in the system, because I didn't get to drive it around much. I was kind of tripping off of that, but why not? Who doesn't love two-step? Look at that, bloated hoses. This is my issue. I don't know if you guys remember this transmission I picked up from the junkyard a couple weeks ago. Finally got around to opening it up, cleaning the hell out of it, inspecting it, and verifying it that it is a B16 transmission. Now, given that this differential gear has 66 teeth on it, this leads me to believe it's a Delso B16. Regardless of the fact it has B16 gears in it, I counted every single one of the tooth on it, main and counter shaft, and I resealed it. Now I'm going to take it with me to the gas station because I found a buyer. Yo, when you have an H2B but you don't want to go out the hood, you just cut the hood.
Hell yeah.
F23?
H23, H2B.
H23 with a Type R transmission. And the funniest thing is that this car is for sale, and some dude just walked up over there, came up to him and said, do you want to sell the car? So hopefully he calls you, bro. You know what I'm saying? If you guys in Redwood City, H2B for sale. Car runs and drives your daily.
It's my daily.
Price?
I'm asking 3K, but
well, I'm gonna put your Instagram in the description below, so that way people can just hit you up directly.
Right on, appreciate it, bro.
But you keeping the wheels though?
I got the blades on the back.
Okay. So So it'll come with blades. But overall, it's a really nice car. Sounds good. Hit him up. Yo guys, I'm doing this for my auntie. Great news from yesterday's court date. And I don't even drink, but this one's for her. Alan, witness this shit, bro.
Sir, all right, do your thing. That's my cousin right there, you know.
I don't drink, bro.
Good thing.
Hey, that's good news though.
Oh yeah, man.
It's good news.
Honestly.
Damn, bro. I'm about to go pass out. Damn. Golly, that is a lot of cars. We're at the south of the border, boys. So far, guys, we ran from the first spot, the second spot, and there's more spectators than anything. We can't even get to the line to the front, and now we're in the third spot. Still haven't got a run-in yet, so